Part 90. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dowby in the World. Chapter 891. Chapter 891 Mr. Tang broke out one. Have you had breakfast? Jianyuman was still busy, cutting fruit quickly. Xiaozhang bought me a portion, but it tasted so bad that I almost vomited it out. It's not even 1% of yours. I really want to be able to eat what you cook every day. Exaggeration. Jianyuman gave Tangyuj a look. You didn't grow up eating takeout for the past 20 years, and you still vomited after eating. That's different. Now that I'm sick, the medicine is bitter, and there's always some taste of the medicine left on my tongue. When those delicious dishes enter my mouth, they change their taste. After eating the delicious food you made, I won't eat anything else. The food tastes much worse, Tangyuj said seriously, his expression even a little serious when he spoke, and he talked about the comparison in a clear and logical manner. Jianyuman was busy in the kitchen, throwing several fruits and vegetables into the juicer, then pouring them into containers and handing them to Tangyuj. Drink a freshly squeezed drink, it's very nutritious. Jianyuman smiled and stuffed it into Tangyuj's hand. Tangyuj took a sip and immediately felt that it was astonishing and delicious, and it was almost exaggerated. It diluted the bitter taste in his mouth and tongue, leaving only the taste of fruits and vegetables. Of course, Tangyuj couldn't help but praise her a lot, almost praising Jianyuman to the sky. Jian'er, what should I do? I feel like I can't bear to part with your craftsmanship anymore. How about you cook me food every day from now on? Tangyuj looked at the freshly squeezed drink that he drank up in just a few sips, feeling melancholy in his heart. He felt unhappy and depressed. It's written all over his face, completely undisguised. A pair of beautiful eyes, like those of a poor puppy, looked at Jianyuman, waiting for her answer. He is really missed. There is no falsehood at all, and there are no sweet words, they are all words from the heart. Jianyuman was stared at all the time, and she couldn't ignore it even if she wanted to. She put down the knife in her hand with a solemn expression, and then sighed deeply. Mr. Tang, please don't say that. I'm just here to take care of you temporarily because you are sick. I can't cook for you every day. Why not? As long as you are willing, Tangyuj asked, his eyes looking at Jianyuman expectantly. This is impossible. There are too many people with better skills than me. You can hire some good chefs. I am not your cook. When you get better, we should not meet again. Why? We are husband and wife in Tangyuj's heart. They have always been husband and wife. Even if they have signed a divorce, they are still husband and wife in his heart, and she is still his wife, but now his wife has left home willfully. That was in the past. Don't say anything misleading. Our relationship as husband and wife is already in the past, Jianyuman said helplessly. She couldn't figure out why Jianyuman kept saying that they were husband and wife, not when he signed the divorce agreement. In an instant, they were no longer a couple. If you really cherish their relationship, why did you sign the divorce agreement in the first place? He was the one who signed the contract in the first place, and now he is the one doing the rogue thing. Even if you are my ex-wife, you are still my wife, Tangyuj said seriously, and what he said was quite serious. If you don't think carefully, you will really get involved. Jianyuman looked at Tangyuj with disdain, saying that his ex-wife could be considered his wife. Please, how can you say this? My ex-wife is the past tense, how can it be counted? I have my own life, and I can't revolve around you, the eldest young master. I have the life I want to live. Before Jianyuman came today, she had already planned to make it clear to Tangyuj that she would not come in 2 days. Tangyuj's illness is almost healed and he no longer needs her care. The reason why I want to completely draw a clear line and not meet him again in the future is because I am afraid that I will keep seeing him and never forget him. She wanted not to see each other again until she had completely forgotten him. When one day she completely let go of him, the two of them had already let go of the past when they met, chatting and laughing in the world, and she no longer felt distressed because of his little actions. Frequency, my heart is no longer palpitating because of his casual sweet words. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 892. Chapter 892. Mr. Tang broke out too. Tanyu's face darkened, even a little dark. He was very disgusted with her words of drawing a clear line, and his anger kept burning in his heart. This woman actually said such heartless words. What are we, never to see each other again? What are we? Let's live our own lives. She really wants to draw a clear line? She thought he was willing to get along with her in their current relationship. He wished that their relationship would change and return to what it was before. But she actually cruelly said, "Stop interacting with her." Tanyu's anger became more and more intense, and Jian Yuman also felt that the air pressure around her became lower. Tanyu's mood changed obviously, and Jian Yuman's heart skipped a beat. What am I in your heart? Do I exist as a dispensable person? Tanyu's voice became hoarse. No, Jian Yuman's head shook like a rattle. No? Didn't you tell me not to see each other again? Even if our relationship is no longer a couple, we are at least friends, right? Before we became a couple, we were childhood sweethearts. When we were young, you would chase me after me every day and call me Brother Wang. Man. How come after divorce, if you want to pursue your own happiness, you can abandon me and have no contact with me at all? He, Jian Yuman, what are you thinking about? Afraid that he would ruin her relationship with Kenny Bryce? Are you so afraid of Kenny Bryce being jealous? He cherishes their feelings so much, is he, Tanyuj, superfluous? Dispensable heir? Tanyuj was very angry and slammed the glass in his hand on the ground. The flying glass shards scratched his skin, and blood slowly flowed from the wound. Jian Yuman was startled. She didn't expect Tanyuj to get angry as soon as he said he was angry, and his anger was so explosive. When she saw the wound on his foot, her heart throbbed and she came over immediately. Your feet are bleeding. Ha ha ha, do you care? When you were a child, you would shed tears of distress when you saw the wounds on my body. If you didn't see me for a few days, you would be wanted by the whole city. You even wanted to stick to me every day. When you were a child, you also said that I will always be yours. Why do idols and role models change when they grow up? It is said that people's hearts will change, but it turns out that it is true. Tanyuj kept laughing sarcastically, and the expression on his face became even more violent, and the muscles in the corners of his eyes kept shaking. Twitching. Don't be angry. Jian Yuman's tone softened, with a hint of crying in her voice. Can I not be angry? Tanyuj took a step back and avoided her reaching hand. If you can't be my wife, can't you even be my little Tian Tian? If I can't be your husband, can't you even be qualified as Xiaotangtang and Brother Wang? How can you, a woman, be so cruel? Erase everything in our past? If we can't be husband and wife, can't we be friends? Jian Yuman's eyes were red. Facing Tanyu's questions, her heart ached violently. The blood on his feet flowed to the floor. He still acted as if he didn't know, and backed away, asking her questions. Facing Tanyu's questioning, Jian Yuman's heart was cutting like 10,000 knives, it hurt so much. She doesn't want to be friends, not at all, but she wants to be his little sweetheart and his wife. But she finally made the decision to completely let go of the past and start a new life, but his current existence directly killed this possibility. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 893. Chapter 893. Mr. Tang broke out 3. She just wanted to make herself feel better, but seeing Tangyu's sad look, she couldn't bear to let him suffer. She blindly drew a clear line and wanted to make herself feel better, but ignored Tangyu's feelings. From beginning to end, apart from not loving her, he had no other regrets for her. During the marriage, he always loved and pampered himself. He treated her as the sister next door and always loved her. He cared about their friendship, but she kept avoiding and dodging, ignoring the hurt this choice caused him. Qian Yuman opened her hands and hugged Tangyuj forcefully, tears falling down her face uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, brother Wang. I'm sorry, little Tang Tang. Forgive my selfishness, let's be friends. Don't draw any clear boundaries, no more." Qian Yuman shook her head and shed tears, her heart ached so much that she couldn't even breathe. "It hurts." Qian Yuman hugged Tangyuj very hard, as if she was afraid that he would run away if she let go. This was the most painful and emotional time when Tangyuj and Qian Yuman met again. Because Qian Yuman said not to meet again, it completely detonated Tangyuj. Tangyuj, who wanted to get back together, completely exploded when faced with Qian Yuman, who was trying to avoid him. Because Qian Yuman could not let go of Tangyuj, her concern turned back into an ambiguous relationship. However, this quarrel was extremely harmful to both of them, and at the same time, they changed their relationship from exes to friends. Relationship with siblings. Under Qian Yuman's strong embrace, Tangyuj slowly regained his senses and his emotions gradually became controllable. She closed her eyes in pain and hugged Qian Yuman into her arms. "Tian Tian. Even if they are friends, even if they are brothers and sisters, it is better than never having contact with each other until old age and death. It is better than never seeing each other again." Little Tang Tang. The tears on Qian Yuman's face fell freely and they were wiped directly on Tangyu's clothes. Of course, some tears and snot were inevitably contributed. After the two people's emotions got out of control this time, they no longer faced each other for tat. Qian Yuman treated Tangyu's wound seriously, without saying a word to each other during the process. Tangyuj kept staring at Qian Yuman. Qian Yuman kept her head down and treated the wound carefully. She was so depressed that it was difficult for her to laugh. Even after a big quarrel, the things they couldn't let go of still existed in their hearts, and they became very polite because of them. In the past, Qian Yuman would quarrel with Tangyuj when she saw him, and sometimes she would be cold, mocking, and distant, at least lively. But since this quarrel, she has become more distant and more polite. The seemingly warm relationship between the two people actually pushes each other further away. The two hearts seem to be close but are actually repelling each other. When Secretary John came to report every day, he thought he would see his boss arguing with his wife. Unexpectedly, what he saw when he came in was two boring gourds. The atmosphere between the two was very strange. They seemed very close and yet far away. They did not speak but occasionally made eye contact. This communication was not one of disgust or indifference, but a series of complexities that he, an outsider, could not understand. Secretary Zhang is very distressed. He doesn't know what the boss couple are doing. Secretary Zhang is probably the one who most hopes that Tangyuj and Qian Yuman will get back together. Because only by getting back together with Qian Yuman, Tangyuj will be in a good mood, and his year-end bonus will not be deducted at every turn. He does not need to worry about the boss's personal affairs, he only needs to work hard. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 894. Chapter 894. Tang Rascal appears 1. Secretary Zhang is probably the one who most hopes that Tangyuj and Qian Yuman will get back together. Because only by getting back together with Qian Yuman, Tangyuj will be in a good mood, and his year-end bonus will not be deducted at every turn. He does not need to worry about the boss's personal affairs, he only needs to work hard. Tanyuj and Qian Yuman spent another day together in this strange way. Finally, on the third day, they returned to their former self. They occasionally bickered and no longer had a somber face. The two of them have adjusted their moods, buried all the unhappy things in their hearts, and started to get along with each other with a new identity. Childhood sweethearts who grew up together, this familiar yet unfamiliar relationship. After meeting Zhang Chuiun again, it was natural that Zhang Chuiun kept asking her out to play. Especially since Wang Xinian had an event and returned to China yesterday, the young couple got together for 5 days and then separated. When I made an appointment with Zhang Chuiun, I happened to be at Tanyuj's home and was overheard by Tanyuj, who was eavesdropping on the phone. Since the quarrel, Tanyuj's health has improved overnight, and there is no need to pretend to be sick to gain sympathy. Qian Yuman happily went out to meet Zhang Chuiun. The two of them met just like what women like to do, eating, shopping and drinking coffee. While they were having lunch, a giant baby suddenly appeared. After a serious illness, his whole body was radiant again, exuding male hormones, attracting a group of nymphomaniacs on the roadside. Wearing a dazzling purple suit, he walked into the restaurant where Qian Yuman and the others were sitting. Qian Yuman, who was gossiping about the relationship story of how Zhang Chuiun and Wang Xinian got together in the first place, didn't even notice a man who had been planning for a long time and walked towards them. "Beauty, would you like me to buy you a drink?" a teasing voice sounded from above Tanyuj and the others. Zhang Chuiun opened her mouth slightly and looked up with some surprise at Tanyuj, who was chatting with them. When she saw Tanyuj's facial features clearly, she even made a sound of surprise. The eldest brother of Xingai. But he's so handsome. This is what Zhang Chuiun thinks. She and her boyfriend are completely different types. Tanyuj has more masculine charm, and it is a dangerous kind of masculine charm. There was always a faintly evil smile hanging on the corner of his mouth, and his eyes would stare at her for several seconds as if seducing. Qian Yuman covered her face, slowly raised her head to look at Tanyuj, and smiled at him. "Why are you here?" "What a coincidence," Tanyuj shrugged and said with a smile. "It just so happens that it's your sister." Qian Yuman had already guessed in her mind that Tanyuj had eavesdropped on her phone, and then she found out that she had made an appointment with her students to have dinner here. Zhang Chuiun was not as disgusted as Qian Yuman. Instead, she looked at Tanyuj and then at teacher Qian in surprise. Then Zhang Chuiun, who had a simple mind and a comparative mind, asked a question. "Teacher Qian, have you reconciled with Xingai's eldest brother? It scared me to death. I really thought that Half-Blood was your boyfriend a few days ago." Zhang Chuiun patted her chest in shock and let out a long shush tone. Hearing the mixed-race boyfriend, Tanyuj immediately knew that Zhang Chuiun was talking about Kenny, and the smile on his face froze for a few seconds. Qian Yuman stretched out her hand, hit Zhang Chuiun on the head hard, and cursed with a smile. "What are you talking about? Xingai's eldest brother and I are friends now, not getting back together." End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 895. Chapter 895. Tang Rascal appears too. When Zhang Chuiun heard this, she looked at them with regret. "We're not getting back together. What a pity, you guys seem to be a perfect match. It's such a pity to get divorced." Zhang Chuiun's words made Tanyuj, who had been depressed for a few seconds, smile again. "This beauty is so discerning, I decided that I will treat you to this meal today," Tanyuj said with a smile, then moved his buttocks to his position and sat next to Qian Yuman. And also moved Qian Yuman a certain distance to the side with his butt. "Hey, what are you doing?" Qian Yuman hissed at Tanyuj in disgust. Tanyuj didn't even look at Qian Yuman, but spoke to Zhang Chuiun opposite with a smile on his face. "Little beauty, what's your name?" Zhang Chuiun's cute little face looked curiously at the charming Tanyuj in front of her. Qian Yuman rolled her eyes, feeling that Zhang Chuiyun was in danger because the man sitting opposite her was so seductive. I couldn't help but worry about Wang Xinian. The next time I saw my girlfriend, I found that my little girlfriend had been seduced by Tang Yuj. Mr. Tang, please move your butt. Why are you sitting down? I'm talking to Xiaoyun about women now, so don't disturb us, okay? Qian Yuman pushed Tang Yuz's body with a look of disgust. What are you doing? I'm inviting Sister Zhang to dinner today. How come I'm not here when I'm inviting you to dinner? Of course we have to eat together, don't you think so, lovely Sister Zhang? Tang Yuj smiled brightly and looked at Zhang Chuiyun opposite. Exude charisma. Fortunately, the opposite Zhang Chuiyun has a crush on her. Maybe Tang Yuz's flirtation with her would really seduce her little heart. Teacher Qian, let Xingai's eldest brother eat together. There are only two of us anyway. It doesn't matter if one more person eats. Zhang Chuiyun was still very shy. After saying this, her face was as red as a monkey's butt. Being a good person, she did not even try to drive away Tang Yuj. She was even more curious about the relationship between Tang Yuj and Qian Yuman. They say they are friends, but they feel that their relationship is so ambiguous. He. Although she is simple-minded, it does not mean that she is stupid, and I don't see it at all. Qian Yuman, Xiaoyun, it's inconvenient to have more than one man. Tang rascal, what's the inconvenience? Qian Yuman, we want to talk about when my aunt will come and what sanitary napkin is better to use to prevent side leakage. Do you want to talk together? Tang rascal, I can also talk to you about uncles, such as when men come to uncles, whether uncles need to use uncle towels, and other issues. Qian Yuman, you stinky gangster, don't bring bad luck to Xiaoyun. They can just discuss this kind of issue privately. And Zhang Chuiyun's face was as red as her butt, redder than ever, and she was so shy that she didn't know what to do. However, the former couple in front of her were fighting passionately. Seeing that the content of the chat was getting more and more exciting and uncontrollable, she was so embarrassed that she ran to the toilet. Although she and Wang Xinian have had a super friendship for a long time, she is still very shy when talking to others, let alone a boy. But Tang Yuj and Qian Yuman continued to chat. Qian Yuman, aren't you going to leave? Tang rascal, what do you mean by refusing to leave? I'm treating you to a meal. Qian Yuman rolled her eyes. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 896. Chapter 896 Mom, it's me Manman 1. Qian Yuman, aren't you going to leave? Tang rascal, what do you mean by refusing to leave? I'm treating you to a meal. Qian Yuman, you can pay directly. Tang rascal, I don't want it, I'm hungry. Waiter, order. A certain scoundrel directly waved the waiter over, started a series of ordering, and continued shamelessly to the end. He didn't mind at all that he was uninvited, and forcibly joined in the communication between Qian Yuman and Zhang Chuiyun. In this way, Tang Yuj forcibly joined their team, causing Zhang Chuiyun to express her feelings for Wang Xinian and become even more shy. There were some particularly private or shy things that she was unwilling to say no matter how tempted Qian Yuman was. As a result, Qian Yuman's resentment towards Tang Yuj was very, very deep. The relationship between Wang Xinian and Zhang Chuiyun is actually very ordinary. They are a teenage idol and a wealthy daughter. Due to Wang Xinian's status as an idol star, their relationship was secretive. Only each other's best friends and Wang Xinian's manager and assistant knew about it. Even each other's parents didn't know that they were dating. When we first got together, it was Zhang Chuiyun who took the initiative to date Wang Xinian, and Wang Xinian, who had always been polite to his classmates, had always paid attention to Jang Chaeun. My feelings for her are also hazy. When faced with Jang Chaeun's later reformed date, she originally didn't refuse just for the sake of her classmate's face. But I don't want to be tempted during a date. Both of them were teenagers, and they didn't say anything about their feelings. They texted each other, made phone calls, and occasionally went out on dates to watch movies. This lasted for a year. This ambiguous young couple never even held hands. Later, Lian went out to play alone, and it rained heavily and got wet. Something dramatic happened. The hotel we stayed in was full and only one room was full, so the two of them shared a room. Originally, the two of them were fine, and neither of them did anything deviant. It was just that their little hearts were beating abnormally. Who would have thought that the thunder frightened Jang Chaeun and put her directly into Wang Xinian's arms? The two people hugging each other have feelings for each other. Tian Li communicates well. The impulse of youth allows them to break through the last line of defense, have a relationship, confess their feelings for each other, and finally get together. After that, there was a long life of secret dating. The relationship was stable without major twists and turns, but they had their own little happiness. After hearing the emotional experiences of Wang Xinian and Jang Chaeun, Qian Yuman sighed leisurely. Another little piece of meat belongs to another woman, what a pity. Jang Chaeun couldn't understand the regret in her eyes, but Tang Yuj could. This cowardly little woman actually had bad intentions for a boy who was less than 20 years old. Then I thought of Xian Yingzhi, a man who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old who often hung around Qian Yuman, and once again suspected that this woman liked old cows to eat young grass. Tang Yuj is more of a listener and occasionally expresses one or two opinions. Out of the corner of her eye, Qian Yuman saw a familiar figure walking past their location. At first, she just glanced at him and didn't take it too seriously. The moment she saw the person passing by her from the corner of her eye, Qian Yuman stood up from her seat excitedly. Her whole body began to tremble as she watched the figure sit next to her, her face facing him. Mother. It was her mother who had been missing for 3 years. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 897. Chapter 897 Mom, it's me Manman too. Her whole body began to tremble as she watched the figure sit next to her, her face facing him. Mother. It was her mother who had been missing for 3 years. Qian Yuman couldn't believe her eyes. She actually saw her mother who had been missing for 3 years. The first time she saw it, she couldn't believe her eyes. She rubbed her eyes with her hands, still staring at the front. People. Really? It was not her imagination. Her mother was sitting opposite her, having a meal, talking and laughing with a woman opposite her, and she seemed to be in a good mood. Her dressing style has changed slightly. Before Qian's mother got sick, she was working, so she was dressed relatively smartly and ordinary. But the clothes on Mother Qian in front of her were completely different. She was so noble. Just from a distance, you could tell that the clothes she wore must be expensive. Her every move exuded a graceful and luxurious temperament. Even though she is nearly 50 years old, her skin is still firm and smooth, without much trace of age. It would be okay to say that she is only 30 years old. She was in a good mood at the moment. She was talking and laughing with the woman opposite. She didn't even notice Qian Yuman's shocked look, let alone someone looking at her in shock. She was still talking and laughing, but Qian Yuman was so shocked that she forgot to make any reaction. She was so surprised. She has been looking for him for 3 years, and there has been no news at all in the last 2.5 years. She is about to give up. However, without any precaution, her mother appeared in front of her again. This was her second encounter since the last time they met in the supermarket. Not even a week had passed since the last time, and I met my mother again. Now she was even more sure that her mother lived in London. Is this God finally taking pity on me and giving her mother back? Qian Yuman's excited look naturally attracted the attention of the other two people. Tang Yu's sharp eyes immediately looked towards the opposite side. When he saw Mother Qian opposite him, he sat upright in surprise and looked at the person sitting opposite him with joy. With just one glance, he recognized that the person opposite Qian Yuman who surprised Qian Yuman was actually his mother-in-law, whom he had not seen for many years. Zhang Chuiyun also looked over. Although she didn't know why teacher Qian had such a reaction, when she saw Qian Xiener clearly, she was also surprised for a while, because Qian Xiener and Qian Yuman were 67% similar. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that the two are related. Qian Yuman was so excited that her whole body was shaking. She was dumbfounded for 3 minutes. When she came to her senses, 2 lines of tears fell from her face. Quickly, get out of the way! Qian Yuman came to her senses, stretched out her hand and pushed Tang Yuj hard, asking him to get out of the way quickly and not to block her way. They were seated by the window, and Tang Yuj had to stand up before he could go out. Tang Yuj was urged to stand up by Qian Yuman and immediately made way for her. He naturally knew what Qian Yuman wanted to do. Qian Yuman was in such a hurry to go out that she almost tripped over the chair and fell over the sofa. She made a clanging noise but was held by Tang Yuj to prevent her from falling. Be careful! Qian Yuman had no intention of arguing with Tang Yuj and rushed out anxiously. This time Qian's mother was not like last time. She was stunned for a second and then left. She was still sitting next door talking to the luxurious lady. Laugh. The last time she chased desperately, she couldn't catch up with her mother. This time it was different, her mother was still sitting opposite. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 898. Chapter 898 Mom, It's Me Manman 3. Qian Yuman had no intention of arguing with Tang Yuj and rushed out anxiously. This time Qian's mother was not like last time. She was stunned for a second and then left. She was still sitting next door talking to the luxurious lady. Laugh. The last time she chased desperately, she couldn't catch up with her mother. This time it was different. Her mother was still sitting opposite, showing no signs of leaving. Qian Yuman stood up straight, and her feet suddenly felt as if they were filled with lead. They were very heavy. Her heartbeat was getting faster and faster because of excitement. She didn't know how long it took her to walk these short steps. She just felt that it was very long. Perhaps it may seem like only a few steps on the surface, but to her, this short few steps represents the 3 years of waiting. She waited for 3 years, a full 3 years, before she found her mother again. In the past 3 years, there have been many times when she missed her mother, which made her feel depressed, and she did not know how many tears of missing her she shed. Finally she found her mother. Qian Mama, who was sitting opposite and was chatting and laughing with her friends when a young woman appeared at the table. She slowly raised her head to look at the woman standing beside her. At first she thought there was a waiter standing next to her, but upon closer inspection she turned out to be a young and beautiful woman with an excited expression. Qian Yuman's body was still trembling because she was so excited. She was so excited that she didn't know what to say for a moment. She stared at the familiar face in front of her with her beautiful peach blossom eyes. When Mother Qian's eyes fell on her, she almost cried out, but she saw her mother looking at her with strange eyes, as if she was looking at a stranger. Qian Yuman was so excited that she didn't notice anything was wrong with the way her mother looked at her. She was still in the excitement of meeting her mother again. Mom, I finally found you. After Qian Yuman said these words, the tears that she had finally stopped fell and she covered her mouth emotionally, unable to control her emotions for a while. Qian's mother's eyes only stayed on Qian Yuman for a few seconds and then moved away. She continued chatting with her friends. Suddenly she heard Jianyuman calling her mother. She stopped talking and looked at Jianyuman in surprise. Jianyuman, who cannot control herself. Tangyuj also came over at this time, stretched out his hand to hold Jianyuman into his arms, and gently touched her shoulders to comfort Jianyuman, who was almost out of control. Jianyuman waved away Tangyuj's hand, rushed forward, and hugged Jian's mother hard. Jianyuman's move scared Jian's mother and her friend. Both of them were frightened by Jianyuman's sudden move. Jian's mother stiffened even more, with a confused look on her face, and then she looked at her friend. The noble face on the other side, the woman also looked confused. Jianyuman hugged Jian's mother and cried so sadly that her tears kept falling out of her eyes like a kite with a broken string. This also made Jian's mother not push Jianyuman away. Instead, her eyes became very gentle and she patted Jianyuman's back with a smile. Speaking softly. "Little girl, I am not your mother. You have the wrong person." Jianyuman, who was crying very sadly, forgot to cry because she heard her mother's words. She raised her face with 2 lines of tear stains and looked at the face in front of her that was exactly the same as her mother's. "Mom, what are you talking about? You've mistaken the wrong person, I'm Manman." End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 899. Chapter 899, Little Girl, You Got the Wrong Person 1, Please vote. Jianyuman's eyebrows were slightly closer, her brows were furrowed, and the corners of her mouth were drooped. The look in her eyes that she thought was bursting with joy a moment ago turned into shock when Jian's mother called out her little girl. "Mom, what are you talking about? You've mistaken the person, it's me, Manman. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't mistake your mother for anything. I'm not your mother." The noble woman in front of her, who looked exactly like Jian Xian'er, denied with a smile. The eyes he looked at Jianyuman were gentle and strange. The eyes he looked at Jianyuman did not look like the eyes a long-lost mother should have when seeing her daughter. The expression on Jianyuman's face froze instantly. The expression on her face was a bit complicated, happy and excited, with doubtful eyes, and more of sadness. Mom actually said she didn't know her. The noble woman in front of her, who looked exactly like Jian Xian'er, took out a tissue and handed it to her. "Wipe your tears." Jianyuman numbly reached out to take the tissue in her hand, but did not wipe the tears on her face, but looked at her blankly. "Mom, why don't you recognize me?" At Jianyuman's words, another woman laughed and looked at her friend with interest. "I asked Ning-er, did you secretly give birth to a woman outside? Look at how similar you two are. No wonder this little girl came up to you and recognized you as her mother." The woman, who looked very similar to Jianyuman's mother, also laughed and looked at Jianyuman's facial features carefully. "After what you said, I saw that her facial features really look like mine. Her nose and mouth are exactly the same." Jianyuman looked at her mother and then at the people eating with her mother, and a terrible thought appeared in her mind. "Isn't this person my mother? Impossible, how could she not be my mother? Mom, don't make such a joke with me. I am Manman. Your baby daughter. You have been missing for 3 years and I finally found you. This joke is not funny at all. Don't make a joke with me. Seriously." Jianyuman said solemnly, wiping the tears on her face sadly. "Little girl, you really got the wrong person. I really am not your mother. But judging from your appearance, I also guessed that I must look very similar to your mother. Auntie is not kidding you. I really am not you." Mom, the woman in front of her, who was called Ning-er, also guessed that Jianyuman's child was looking for a mother, so she spoke in a particularly patient tone. "She's really not my mother, Jianyuman looked at the woman in front of her who looked exactly like her mother. She felt a sense of loss and still couldn't believe her ears. But from just now, her wooden tube had been staring at her, trying hard to see in her eyes that she was joking. However, the fact is that she was not joking, and although the eyes she looked at herself were gentle, they were very strange, as if she were looking at a passerby who met by chance, without the loving eyes in the past. Jianyuman turned around, took Tanyu's arm, and pulled him excitedly to ask. "Mr. Tang, look at it, help me see if my mother is joking." She didn't like to joke before Jianyuman, like a person who fell into the water, grabbed Tanyu's life-saving straw. Now she could only ask Tanyuj for help. Tanyuj had a PhD in psychology, and few people could successfully lie to him. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 900. Chapter 900, Little Girl, You Got the Wrong Person Too. Qian Man was like a person who fell into the water, grabbing Tanyuj's life-saving straw. Now she can only ask Tanyuj for help. Tanyuj has a doctorate in psychology. Very few people can successfully lie to him. With his smart mind, he can definitely tell whether this woman who looks exactly like her mother has lied. She still didn't believe that she had recognized the wrong person. That was the mother she had been looking for 3 years. Tanyuj, who had been paying attention to everything, had a solemn expression, and fell silent in the face of Jianyuman's inquiry. He noticed something was wrong with this woman when he saw her just now. Before I saw Jianyuman, I moved away as if I didn't see it. Later, when facing Jianyuman, I was like a stranger. Although his demeanor is gentle, he treats him as if he were a stranger, without communicating any personal feelings. Tanyuj looked at it for a long time and realized that the person in front of him really didn't know Jianyuman, and she wasn't lying. The appearance of Jian's mother was still deeply etched in Tanyuj's mind. After all, their two families were neighbors when they were children. There is only one female elder in the family, Jian Xian'er, and Jian's mother next door treats Tanyuj as tenderly and lovingly as she treats her son. Tanyuj also remembers the aunt next door deeply. Of course, I am sure that the woman in front of me looks exactly like Jian Mama in my memory, but the person in front of me looks at them as strangers, as if they are strangers. Mr. Tang, please tell me if I saw it wrong. Jianyuman's emotions were about to get out of control, and her voice was very high, which also attracted the attention of other customers around her. Jian'er, calm down. Tanyuj stretched out his hand to hold her in his arms and comforted her softly. She didn't lie. Maybe she really isn't Aunt Xian'er. Even you can see that she didn't lie. Jianyuman's eyes dimmed instantly. She was so sad that she buried her face in Tanyuj's chest and cried softly. The world is so big that there are many people who look alike. It's like she and Lili are identical twins. And my mother doesn't have any sisters at all. She is the only daughter in her grandparents' family. Does this person really just look like his mother? Jianyuman looked at the woman with gentle and unfamiliar eyes. No matter how she looked at her face, she looked exactly like her mother. When she saw her mother again, she really thought she was meeting her mother again, but she didn't expect that it was all fake and the person in front of her was not her mother. The two noble women looked at each other, stood up, smiled apologetically at them, and chose to leave. Jianyuman suddenly rushed up to acknowledge her relatives, which also disturbed their interest in dining here. Moreover, Jianyuman cried so sadly that they felt strange, so they stood up and left with a tacit understanding, and it was better to eat at another restaurant. Auntie, the woman who looked like her mother, was about to leave, and she immediately shouted, "Are you really not my mother? Really not?" The woman stopped, smiled at Jianyuman and shook her head, and then left the restaurant with her friend. The woman and her friend walked out of the restaurant, and couldn't help but look back at the woman crying in the arms of the handsome man, with a look of pity flashing in her eyes. Another noble woman, Tan Wei also looked at Jianyuman and said with a smile. If I really look like you by appearance, do you think she could be your daughter? End of this chapter.